A chartered American city sits on a numbered U.S. federal highway inside the richest country on earth. It didn't open its first fire station until 2011. Most people picture third world conditions as remote, off the grid, invisible, somewhere you'd need a map to find. This place is on the map. It's incorporated. It's been named the poorest city in the United States, repeatedly, and it sits right on a highway you can drive to from a Whataburger. That's where this countdown ends. Texas has more than 2,000 colonias strung along the Rio Grande. An estimated 500,000 people live in them. By some counts, close to a third have never had reliable access to safe drinking water. American addresses, minutes from Walmarts and interstates, where the sewage backs up in the yard and the houses are still being built by the families already sleeping in them. This channel follows those numbers where the tourism boards don't. If that's the Texas you want to understand, stay with us. Number 12. Alton. Alton opens this countdown because it is the only town on the list that found the exit. That alone is worth a minute of your time. It sits northwest of McAllen in Hidalgo County, a city of about 20,000 people. And when you pull up its census numbers today, you see a median household income near $53,000 and a poverty rate around 27%. High by national standards. A world above what's coming. The number looks almost reasonable. That is exactly the problem. Attached to Alton, before the 2010 census, was a colonia called Alton North. About 5,000 people, over 97% Hispanic at the 2000 count. An informal settlement on Alton's unpaved fringe, with the septic systems and half-finished lots that come standard in a colonia. The city annexed it, absorbed it. And before the 2010 census was taken, Alton North as a named place ceased to exist on the map. Picture this. You are a resident on what used to be Alton North's edge. Your street still ends in gravel. The lot next door has been half cleared since someone ran out of money to finish it. Your home is on a septic system that was installed a decade ago and has never been inspected. But your mailing address now reads Alton, Texas, a city with a $53,000 median income. Your conditions folded into a citywide average that smooths out everything raw about where you actually live. The annexed tracts and the better off blocks get counted together. The rougher edges disappear into the blend. Alton is proof that the escape ladder out of the Colonia system exists. Every place above it on this countdown is proof of how rarely anyone reaches it. Alton made it onto the ladder. Every place above it is still looking up. Number 11. El Cenizo. If you know El Cenizo at all, you know it for the wrong thing. In 1999, it made national headlines. Every cable network, every op-ed page, for adopting Spanish as its official government language and declaring itself a safe haven for immigrants. A full culture war news cycle. And underneath that story, barely mentioned, was the actual one. El Cenizo was carved out of ranch land in the 1980s and sold off lot by lot under something called contract for deed. Translation? A buyer puts money down on a piece of dirt with no paved street, no sewer, no running water, no ambulance service. And one missed payment lets the developer take it all back. No equity, no recourse. Just a plot of land and a handshake that only ran one direction. The town incorporated in 1989, and that move wasn't political. It was a survival strategy. An unincorporated colonia couldn't qualify for the infrastructure grants to build water lines or sewers. Becoming a city was the only way to unlock the money. As late as the 2000 census, 68% of El Cenizo lived below the poverty line on a median household income of about $13,000 a year. Think about that for a moment. Nearly 7 in 10 residents. In an incorporated American city, here is what changed and what didn't. The roads are paved now. Most homes have water. El Cenizo fought for the basics and eventually won. The country remembers it only for an argument about language. The town that survived contract for deed colonization fought its way to basic infrastructure and clawed up from 68% poverty got filed under a cable news debate about government forms being printed in Spanish. El Cenizo won the infrastructure fight. History forgot to notice. Number 10, Rio Bravo. 6 miles below Laredo, right against the river, sits Rio Bravo. Webb County, population about 4,500, and in almost every meaningful way El Cenizo's twin. The two colonias grew up together on the same stretch of riverbank in the 1980s. Self-built houses on unpaved roads. Water trucks arriving on a schedule that determined when a family could cook or bathe. By some accounts, a single telephone serving the entire settlement. Rio Bravo incorporated as a city in 1985, a few years before El Cenizo, and for the same blunt reason. The grant money that could pay for water lines, sewers, and pavement was only available to incorporated municipalities, not to colonias. The pipes are mostly in now. But pull the current census numbers, and Rio Bravo is still running a poverty rate near 33% and a per capita income around $14,000. That's a fraction of the state figure, a fraction of the national figure. The infrastructure that incorporation unlocked arrived, and the incomes barely moved. Decades passed. A resident's daily financial reality hasn't traveled far from where it was when those water lines went in. They got the water lines. The poverty line barely moved. That pattern, the colonia's roads paved far faster than its people lifted out of poverty, is the thread running through this entire countdown. Memorize it now. You will see it again. Number 9. Progreso. Progreso sits at the International Bridge in Hidalgo County, a border-crossing town of about 5,000 people with a per capita income around $15,000 and roughly a third of residents in poverty. It sits in a corridor of registered colonias that still lack full water and sewer service. Standard border town profile. And then, a few minutes down the road, the sign changes. Progreso Lakes. Separate incorporated city. Population barely 200. Median household income near $83,000. Per capita income 2.5 times higher than Progreso proper. The census can't even calculate a poverty rate for it. Too small, too comfortable, too few people anywhere near the line. Two towns, near identical names, same county, same stretch of riverbank. One is a colonia belt where the water and sewer infrastructure is still incomplete. The other is a quiet enclave where the census runs out of poor people to count. A Progreso resident drives past the Progreso Lakes road sign on the way to work. Same county, same river. The name on the sign looks almost like their own city. What the sign doesn't say is that the distance between those two signs is also the distance between two entirely different economic worlds. On this border, the gap between the first world and the third is sometimes the distance between two signs that read almost the same. Same name, same river. Completely different country. Number 8, Scissors. The name alone tells you something about the way these places got drawn on a map. Unincorporated in Hidalgo County, 6 miles southeast of Alamo, a community of just over 4,000 people called Scissors. In 2000, it was destitute in the plainest terms. 52% of the town below the poverty line, median household income under $19,000, per capita income just under $5,000. 2 decades of colonia, water, and sewer investment across Hidalgo County moved those numbers. Median income roughly doubled to about $41,000 today. So Scissors is a success story? Careful. A third of the town still lives in poverty. Family poverty runs near 39%. The median resident is barely 22 years old. Scissors is made mostly of children and young parents. 1 in 3 of its people is below the poverty line in a country that considers 39% family poverty a humanitarian crisis anywhere else in the world. Picture this. You are a young parent in Scissors, 22 or 23 years old, raising kids in a community where the typical person around you is your own age or younger, where 1 in 3 households is poor, where the numbers have improved and the improvement still lands you here. The aid was real. The needle moved. Not as poor as 2,000 inches is not a destination. It is a description. An American town, literally named Scissors, where 1 in 3 residents lives below the poverty line. That is a hard thing to file under success. They move the needle. Not far enough to matter yet. We're only at number 8. Still ahead. West Texas City, where the county judge said the water system is pretty damn close to failing. And that city is the best off place for 100 miles around it. Number 7, Presidio. 900 miles up the river from the valley, at the edge of Big Bend country in far west Texas, Presidio sits across the Rio Grande from Ojinaga, Mexico. Locals call this stretch the Forgotten Reach, and the name is accurate in both directions. Forgotten by state budget cycles and forgotten by most Texans who have never driven the 2-lane road out here through the Chihuahuan Desert. The city has about 3,000 residents and a poverty rate near 39%. Its problem is the most elemental one on this list: water. Not access to sewer improvements or bond financing debates. The actual pipes carrying water to homes are old, leaking, and acknowledged by the county's own leadership to be near the end of their life. The county judge has said flatly that the small public systems serving this area are pretty damn close to failing. Up the river, tiny colonias like Candelaria have fought for years just for safe drinking water, the kind of fight the valley towns on this countdown were having in the 1980s. Presidio, at 39% poverty, is the comparatively well-resourced place in this picture. Presidio County around it posts a median household income of about $23,000, roughly half the city's figure, and ranks among the poorest counties in Texas. A Presidio resident turns on the tap knowing the system serving the town is old and leaking and admitted to be near failure, and they live in the best resourced place for 100 miles in any direction. In most of Texas, the town is better off than the surrounding countryside. Out here, the incorporated city with failing water pipes is the best off place around, and the unincorporated desert beyond it is where conditions tip into something else entirely. Out here, a failing water system makes you the lucky ones. Number 6, La Homa. The number that defines La Homa is not its poverty rate, though a third of its residents are poor on a per capita income under $15,000. The number is the population, 11,000 people. La Homa is not a hamlet on an empty stretch of river road. It is a colonia of 11,000 Americans strung along La Homa Road between Mission and Palmview inside the McAllen metro, 10 minutes from a modern American city with an interstate and a regional airport and a Costco. As recently as 2010, more than 57% of La Homa lived below the poverty line. The issue the poverty rate doesn't capture is plumbing. La Homa runs on private septic tanks. No municipal sewer. When the heavy valley rains come, and they do come, the yards flood for days. The floodwater seeps into the septic tanks. And then the rainwater and the raw sewage mix, and what backs up across the lots is not just water. The unpaved roads make the drainage worse. Officials describe improvements as still in the works, a phrase that has been used in some form about valley colonias for 40 years. After a hard rain, a La Homa resident looks out at the yard and knows exactly what is rising around the base of their home. They are 10 minutes from a Walmart. They are inside a metropolitan area of nearly 1 million people. The sewage came up in the yard again. 1 million-person metro. 11,000 people whose sewage comes up in the rain. 6 down, 6 to go. And the next stop crosses the entire state to El Paso, where more than half of one community lives below the poverty line, and the waste from their homes still seeps into the ground they walk on. Number 5, Sparks. El Paso's lower valley sits 900 miles from the Rio Grande Valley, and the conditions in it dismantle the assumption that this is a valley problem, a border proximity problem, a phenomenon specific to that one corridor. Sparks is a colonia of about 4,000 people in El Paso County, and it carries the single highest poverty rate of any community on this list, 52%. More than half its residents below the line. The lower valley is where the modern definition of colonia crisis was written. Back in 1989, an estimated 28,000 people in the settlements around El Paso were living with no running water at all. Another 53,000 had barely any sewage treatment. El Paso's 1979 decision to stop extending water service beyond city limits helped create those conditions. A policy choice, not geography. And the communities left outside that line built themselves without infrastructure because they had to. Sparks still relies on septic systems that, as one account put it, leach waste across the ground. As recently as 2024, the local water district was still hunting for tens of millions in bond financing to finally extend service. A Sparks resident steps outside in 2024, knowing the waste from their home seeps into the same ground their children play on, and that the bond money to fix it is still being negotiated somewhere in a meeting room they were not invited to. This is not the far edge of nowhere. It is a neighborhood inside a major American metro of nearly 1 million people. More than half its residents are poor. The sewage from their homes goes into the dirt they live on. Proof the third world doesn't live only along the Rio Grande. Number 4, Las Lomas. Las Lomas is a colonia in Starr County, just outside Rio Grande City, and this is where the countdown stops being primarily about data and becomes about shelter itself. When CNN documented Las Lomas in 2011, the descriptions were not metaphorical. Houses with no foundations, no floors, no windows, no doors, sometimes not all four walls, unpaved streets with no drainage. These were not abandoned structures or properties in disrepair. They were homes being actively lived in by families who were building them as money allowed, board by board, and living inside the unfinished frames in the meantime. The census numbers track alongside that image. Around 37% of Las Lomas in poverty, one of the lowest median incomes in the region. But the number that matters is the one the cameras captured in 2011. A community assembling its own houses out of whatever materials were available. Not because they were careless about construction, but because finishing the house required money they did not have, and the alternative was sleeping outside. What does a Las Lomas resident's evening look like in 2011? They come home to a structure that has walls on 3 sides. The 4th side has a tarp where the wall should be. They did not move into a house and let it fall apart. They are building it, one paycheck at a time, and living in it while it is not finished. A decade after the cameras left, Las Lomas still posts numbers that wouldn't look out of place in the developing world. When people say third world conditions as a figure of speech, this is the place that makes it literal. Number 3, Cameron Park. Cameron Park is 4 miles north of downtown Brownsville, a colonia of about 6,000 people close enough to the city that on a clear day you can see the skyline. It carries the lowest per capita income of anywhere on this countdown, around $13,000, and a poverty rate near 45%. In the census era, around 2000, it was widely reported as the poorest place in the United States among communities with at least 1,000 households, with a median individual income around $4,000 a year. But the fact that defines Cameron Park is not a number, it is a date. Cameron Park had no water or sewer lines at all until 1994. Not in some earlier chapter of Texas history, not before living memory. 1994. Within the lifetime of most adults currently living there, residents lobbied the state capitol, knocked on doors, showed up at hearings, made the case in person, until the Texas Water Development Board and Brownsville's utility finally agreed to install the lines. By 2000, most of the community's roughly 1,000 homes had running water, and 9 of its 11 miles of road had been paved. An adult living in Cameron Park today was a child when the water truck stopped being the only source of water. That is not a distant history. It is a memory. Running water arrived in 1994. Poverty didn't leave with the water trucks. Number 2, Indian Hills. Indian Hills is a colonia of about 2,800 people near West Laco in Hidalgo County, and it holds the sharpest number on this entire list, a poverty rate of 67%. 2 out of every 3 residents below the poverty line, more than double the rate of Hidalgo County around it, over 5 times the national figure. Carry that for a moment. In a country where 10% poverty is considered a serious policy problem, Indian Hills runs at 67. The detail behind that number is the one that changes how you read it. The median resident of Indian Hills is 23 years old. This community is overwhelmingly children and young parents. 67% poverty is not a condition that descended on Indian Hills after some collapse. No factory left, no employer closed. It was poor from the day it was platted and has stayed that way through a full generation. Statewide studies find roughly half of rural colonia homes in this belt have incomplete plumbing. Families have long relied on hauled water and cesspools. For a child born in Indian Hills, 67% poverty is not a downturn or a crisis. It is simply the world. The baseline, the way things are and have always been and appear to be going to stay. That normalization is the quietest part of a very loud number. And this is still not the poorest place on the list. Number 1, Escobares. Every other entry in this countdown has been a colonia, unincorporated, informal, legally ambiguous, easy to overlook in a budget meeting because it doesn't quite appear on the map the same way a city does. Escobares is none of those things. It is a chartered American city. It sits right on U.S. Highway 83 in Starr County, a few miles west of Rio Grande City. It is incorporated. It is governed. It has a city seal. And year after year, By more than one national measure, it has been named the poorest town in the United States. In 2019, the BBC reported that 62% of Escobares lived below the poverty line, the highest rate of any U.S. city with more than 1,000 people. As recently as November 2025, national outlets were still running that same headline. Current census figures put poverty around 44% and median household income under $30,000, which is an improvement and still a number that belongs nowhere near the self-described economic engine of America. A resident quoted in reporting said his home was so poor it feels like homelessness. That is not a complaint about relative comfort. That is a description. Here's the detail that carries the whole list. Escobares did not open its first fire station until 2011. A $500,000 building, funded almost entirely by a state grant, opened in 2011. Every year before that, every year of Escobares' entire prior existence as an incorporated American city, was a year with no fire station. A resident in 2010 lives in a chartered city on a numbered federal highway, and if their house catches fire, the building that would respond to that call has not been constructed yet. Translation? Not a remote desert settlement, not an informal colonia, not a place that fell through some administrative crack. A city. On a highway. In the richest nation on earth. Named the poorest place in the country again and again while sitting in plain sight, right on the road. The first world and the third world are not separated by an ocean here. They are separated by a county line. From Alton to Escobares, every place on this list is an American address, incorporated or not, mapped or not. Inside the richest country on earth, where the most basic systems, water, sewage, shelter, a fire station, either arrived decades late, are still described as in the works, or never came at all. That is not a border problem or a geography problem. It is a choice, made over and over, about which addresses count. If you grew up near the border, or know someone who did, tell us in the comments, what does the rest of the country get wrong about what life actually looks like down here? And if you think this is only a border story, the next video might complicate that. If this one landed the way it landed for us, hit like and subscribe. We cover Texas the way it is, not the way the brochure says it is, and we are here every week.